too many people hate their job. Life is just too short to go through it spending most of your waking hours at a job you don't like. The magic happens when the dream matches your wiring. Figure out what you're wired to do and lean into that lane.
Hi, William.
Hey, Paula.
Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. I love the place you're in. I love the podcast you're doing, and I'm honored to be here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. William, you've made the observation that you would never ask a Pomeranian to be a guard dog. Tell me about that observation and how that applies to the lives and careers of the people who are listening to this.
Well, time for true confessions. I wrote about a Pomeranian. The reality is I have a miniature poodle, but not many men want to say that they own a miniature poodle, right? But our poodle, I swear, there's a thing going through my algorithm right now of dogs barking at the door and Jack Nicholson lines over the top of them. They're protecting their house like a few good men. And that's our miniature poodle. She sits there and barks and looks at me when I say, be quiet, like the Amazon guy hasn't ever broken in when I do this. So she's convinced she could take down a Great Dane. She could take down, she can't. She'd be terrible at it. She'd get eaten alive. And I'm afraid some people's careers people get caught into thinking they have to do jobs they're not wired to do. You know, some of us are wired like the very confident 10-pound poodle, but don't need to be fighting Great Danes. Others are sled dogs and can do the Iditarod. Well, I wouldn't think my poodle would do very well at that. So I think the key, you know, when we look at all of them, we say, well, they're dogs. They're not, some of them are bigger than others. Some are shaped different tasks. Humans are even more complex. And too many people hate their job. And too many managers think that the people that work for them aren't any good at their job. So what I was trying to get across in that image of the Pomeranian is, you know, figure out what you're wired to do and lean into that lane. So life is just too short to go through it spending most of your waking hours at a job you don't like.
And what I think is great about the dog analogy is that even there's a sort of an inherent nature that we all have, and you can try to make yourself something you're not. You know, you can be the miniature poodle that's barking at the Great Dane, but at the end of the day, you're just not going to be as good as a Great Dane at the things that a Great Dane can do.
I would love to win the NBA slam dunk competition. I think it'd be awesome, but it's not going to happen, Paula. I'm Dutch. We're short and built for wind resistance. You know, we're not tall NBA players. It's everybody's got a dream of what they do. The magic happens when the dream matches your wiring.
So how does that jive with, you know, sometimes people will have these dreams and society around them tells them to, quote unquote, be realistic.
Sure.
How do you maintain the audacity of dreaming big while also, fitting that in with a framework of working in the way that you're wired?
Yeah. Well, I think the key to achieving a big dream is working in the lane you're wired. So we have 7 children, and all of them in the real world, except one in high school still. I am now taking on a new role with my kids. I'm the family HR department. Since I run an exec search firm, they call me with career advice. What do I do with this? What do I do? And they're all doing totally different things, and none of them work in our company. And I've told all of them, you know, if you can run your job through a few filters, you're going to really be happy with what you do. If you can find something you're good at, that the world needs, that leaves the place better than you found it, and that you can make some money doing, well, then you found magic. And I don't care what you go into. You know, you could be a garbage truck collector, and if that hits all those boxes for you, you'll be happy. If you figure out what the thing is you're good at, and the world needs it, and you can make a living, and it leaves the place better than you found it, and you run as hard as you can, you might end up being the best in the world at whatever that one thing is. So it doesn't limit dream size. It's just, what lane do I run in? And once I've got exactly the right lane, you can probably go farther and faster than in any of the other lanes.
So that sounds for somebody in their 20s.
Yes.
That sounds very appealing. There are a lot of people who are listening to this who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, who are thinking, you know, I think in retrospect that I might be in the wrong lane, but retraining at the age of 45 or at the age of 55 feels like such an uphill battle. Wouldn't it be easier for me, or wouldn't it be better for me to simply retire early and then make that the permanent cessation of income-producing activity?
I get bored pretty fast. My wife would tell me to go find something to do if I were home all day. I think we were made to work. Most of us were. And everybody'd love to be able to say, I don't have to work anymore. But the reality is we're living longer than ever. Healthcare costs are going up faster than ever. Who knows if Social Security will hold when you and I are older.
Right.
So it's kind of on us to work longer than we ever have. And I think one of the gifts millennials, I'm in the X generation, the millennials taught us you don't have to stay in the same job or even career. You can change. I grew up with a granddad that literally got the gold watch for working at the same company for however many years, 35, 40 years. That's over, but that's what I grew up thinking you had to do. And reality now is not, I grew up when there were 3 networks on TV. Now everything's on demand all the time. Jobs are similar. You don't have to stay in one of 2 or 3 places. And you'd be surprised how many people have picked up the idea of changing careers in their 50s even. Okay, I've done this. Now I need a new role. I'm kind of tired of what I'm doing. How do I make that shift? How do I make that change? And hopefully figuring out how you're wired and what lane you then belong in can help. That's why we set out to write a book that just kind of described and helped people find a path on one of 12 lanes that have real questions about how do you manage them if they're like this? How do you find a job that fits this? Avoid these jobs that don't fit this? And hopefully it's a simple roadmap to give people a chance, whether they're 50 looking at a new career or they're 20 saying now it's time to get a grown-up job or whatever. Hopefully you can figure out how you're wired, find that lane that you belong in, and go farther and faster.
In just a moment, I want to go through each of the 12 lanes. I will tell you, when I was reading through the 12 lanes, it was obvious to me which lanes I wasn't.
Yes.
There were actually 2 that I eliminated. Oh, there was one that I eliminated immediately. I was like,
which one?
Fast.
Okay.
Fast. I am renowned for my slowness. And I've been like that since I was a child. I was the kid in the school cafeteria who was getting yelled at by the teachers for being too slow of an eater. So yeah, my whole life I've been notably slow at everything I do. And so that particular one, the moment I read it, I was like, whoa, that is not me.
Well, and there are jobs for that kind of person and jobs that you don't want to get involved in.
Yeah, exactly. In a moment, I want to go through the 12.
Sure.
Before we get to that, though, I'd love for you to describe the methodology, because you went through DISC assessment, Enneagram. What was the other one? It was...
one that we developed. It's called the Vander Index. So basically, we drop back a little farther back in the story. 2020 happens. We're shut down.
Right.
Everybody's home. Nobody in our sector was hiring, so they didn't really need any executive search on. So we've grown every year, and we had a chance to drop back and actually do some research about all the data we'd gathered over the years, because we've done lots and lots of searches. Probably 4,000th one will get completed this year, which is a big deal, which for every one search, there are hundreds and hundreds of candidates. So we have all this data. And we started to ask ourselves, have you ever met somebody and within 10 seconds, you're like, I'm signing up for their podcast. I want on their newsletter list. I want to hire them, or I want to date them, or I want to whatever. That immediate, okay, that one's different.
Yeah.
So we said, well, let's figure out who those people were that we interfaced with and see where they've gone in their careers. And the ones that have interviewed well and progressed, let's see if they have anything in common. And it just led to a big research project of the top 30,000 that we'd ever interviewed. And we distilled it down to, I thought it would be, we were doing this research about 3 years ago when everybody that was a teenager was walking around talking about, got to find a guy in finance, 6'5". You remember the thing?
Yeah. Looking for a guy in finance with a trust fund, 6'5", blue eyes. Yeah.
Now he'd have to be 6'7", I guess, but
with inflation,
exactly. Well, I thought it would be things like that. High IQ, well-networked, alumni of good schools, grew up with a family with some means, the normal quarterback head cheerleader kind of stereotypes. It was none of that. And it wasn't just C-suite people. What we found they had in common were 12 habits that they all seem to share. We wrote a book about it in 2 years ago now, Be the Unicorn. And so those 12 habits then became a lens for saying, these people actually enjoy what they're doing and they're good at it. Most Americans hate their job, not mildly dislike it. Most Americans, you can look at lots of studies and find similar results. Most Americans hate their job. Most managers think their teams are average at best. These people love what they're doing and they're good at it. So we sort of reverse engineered. We said, all right, let's look at all their discs. Let's look at all their Enneagrams. Let's look at all of we built an index for those 12 habits. Let's look at all their Vander index and see where there is crisscross. What kinds of jobs, what kinds of things. If your dominant habit is speed or fast, then this is the kind of job, this is the kind of lane that you should belong to. So it really is a massive study that we started 5 years ago now that's yielded some pretty cool fruit.
Right. Can you talk about the Vander index? How did you develop that?
Yeah. So the Vander index, we hired researchers. I'm not going to just make it William's opinion, but basically it's an assessment like a disc inventory. I mean, I think it takes maybe 15 minutes to take, and it asks questions in a way that gives you of these 12 habits, which are basically just how you treat other people. Fast. Do you get back to people quickly?
No.
Okay. And then I'm picking on that one habit, but for every habit, it's really human to human skills, which we didn't know when we were researching, but that is the ball game for labor going forward. Human to human. There's going to be so much that gets tech driven, so much that gets made efficient with fewer people. And I think those humans that can relate to other humans well are the ones that are going to be the gold standard. So these 12 habits, we built an index so people could take it and say, well, which two or three of these do I tend to gravitate toward? And which two or three of them are just not my jam? And give people a sense of if Be the Unicorn tells you how to behave with humans so you can get promoted at work How You're Wired says, here's how you're wired so you can be in good work.
Right. So working how you're wired is what work to choose.
That's right.
And then becoming a unicorn is how to operate.
Just behave this way.
Yeah,
and
once you're there.
People will like you better.
Right. Now, to people who are listening who are not familiar with the DISC index, can you briefly describe what that is? Sure.
It's just a personality index. What do you prefer? DISC, I don't remember what the 4 letters are for, but it's D, I, S, and C.
Right.
High D is I'm going to butcher this, but is a real big bottom line leader. Here's what we're going to get done. A high I is probably you and me. We love getting on a microphone, being in front of a camera, planning a party, gathering a group. S would be a really caring person, a person who takes great, they curate their work, right? And a C would be like an engineer. It's just got to be right. And everybody tends to have one of those 4 as a dominant and then another that's less dominant. And sometimes what you're dominant in at work and recessive, if you will, flips when you're at home. It does for me. So but it's probably, in my estimation, it's probably the most commonly used personality profile in workplaces. So that's why we picked it. It's just the most ubiquitous. And then every child I've raised said, well, Dad, you have to use the Enneagram because that's what anybody talks about now. So,
Right, exactly. Yeah, so I hired a fractional COO earlier this year, and one of the first things that she did was she had our entire team take DISC assessments.
And you were?
I'm the one who is, I forget the letter it's associated with, but driven by ideas, really quick to start, very visionary, but terrible follow through, which I think is probably common for a lot of entrepreneurs.
100%. And you got to have an integrator. What's that great book, Rocket Fuel? Have you found this book?
Oh, no, I haven't.
Oh, everybody listening should find this. If you own any form of business or work for someone who owns a business, because it's the Heath brothers that wrote Made to Stick.
Oh, yeah.
And it's this big. It's a one airplane ride book, but it's basically the role, a good company that grows, the rocket fuel that makes it go, is a good visionary and then a good integrator, probably your fractional COO, that actually makes things happen. And when those two can learn that that's who they are and work together, it's a real nice ham and eggs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Perfect.
So that was way off target from tell us about the disc, but there you go.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so then the methodology, as you were figuring out the 12 zones of how people are wired, so you use a variety of assessments, the one that you developed, plus the disc, plus the Enneagram. Tell us more about the methodology behind figuring out these 12.
You hire good researchers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The thought was, if we've distilled this down to 12 habits that people, when they do them well, they get noticed. Well, everyone's good at one of these 12 things. There's none of the habits in Be the Unicorn are born traits. In fact, we said habits instead of traits because they're just habits. And everybody leans toward one or more. So the more we looked at, what does the disc say about these people? What does the Enneagram say about these people? Where do they rank on their Vander index? You start to see careers, just reverse engineering from people that are good at their job and love it, to say, okay, here's 12 lanes and here's where this kind of job falls and this kind of job and this kind of job. We try to make this cookies on the bottom shelf. Here's 12 paths. Read about this. If you want to go take an assessment for yourself, then do that. That'd be fun. But here's 12 lanes. If you read the book, you'll find the one that's me.
Yeah.
I like that one too. Then you've got real clear examples of jobs that work.
Jobs that work and jobs
that don't. And that's from CEO to mailroom. I mean, it's not just super highly successful careers.
Oh yeah. The jobs that you listed were hilarious. I was literally laughing out loud. So a couple of examples. One was North Korean military, specifically the North Korean military. It wasn't any. It was North Korea. You had that on the list. One was, I remember, politician, unfortunately. And that was for people, if you're low in authenticity.
Yes, you'd be a great politician.
Yeah, so there were several where I was literally laughing out loud. Dickensian lender, specifically.
Yes.
Anytime you see the word Dickensian on a career list.
Well, not normally, but that's kind of the style of the writing's a little snarky, I guess.
Yeah. All right, so let's go through the 12, and we'll start with the very first one that you listed, which is the one that I am not, which is fast. Tell us about what does it mean to be fast?
Well, so what we discovered when we studied unicorns and then career paths that they take is there's a place in the world for people who cannot not get back to people. I have to get back to people. Like I get a text, it's got to happen. It's first because it's my disorder.
Right?
It's like I got to get back to him now. And unicorns that practice that get noticed. And it's amazing right now, getting a human response with some thoughtfulness to an email or a text. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And if it happens quickly, that's even more amazing. And so there are people who are designed to be in that lane. I like to get back to people. I like to do things that are brand new. I like to go fast. I like to jump out of the plane and build a parachute on the way down. Kind of fast twitch thinking and fast twitch acting does have career paths that fall down that lane. The coolest thing though is once you know you belong there, the interview's a piece of cake. Oh, well, Paula, you want me to come on as your fractional bookkeeper? You don't want to do that. You'll fire me real fast.
Right.
Want to put me on sales where I'm out, generating ad revenue or whatever the thing is in your company that's sales. That I can do. I know that because I'm just bent on getting back to people quickly, and that's the hallmark of a great salesperson.
Right, exactly. Emergency veterinarian, I remember, was on that list.
Emergency veterinarian.
Yeah,
that's right.
You got to respond to things quickly.
Right then.
Right, yeah.
And these days, it's not just respond quickly, but discern what has to get responded to quickly.
Yeah, triage.
When you wake up to 500 emails, I mean, how do I get through that quick? Triage it and then answer really quickly. Right.
And the reason that emergency veterinarian on that list stood out to me is because I have a good friend who's an emergency vet. And I remember she told me once, she was like, I can't imagine being the type of vet who manages chronic conditions. And I had never really thought about the veterinary practice until she made that comment. And when she said that, I was like, it was just a moment where I realized, oh, wow, the skill set of being an ER vet
very different
versus the skill set of being a veterinary oncologist.
Yes.
Are completely,
Completely.
like, yeah.
No, in Houston, one of the legends in medicine was a man named Denton Cooley. Most heart medicine in the U.S. is either Dr. DeBakey or Dr. Cooley, who were both in Houston. Both died in the last, 5-10 years. So we've had memorials and things for them. And I didn't know until Dr. Cooley died. They're major innovators, they're researchers, whatever. His proudest moment was saying that he had done, I forget the number and I'll get it wrong, 10,000 or 20,000 of this same procedure over. And I started getting tired just hearing him talk about it.
Yeah.
It's not what the fast want to do. They don't want to do the same thing over and over and over in rote. They want to move from thing to thing and get back to people quickly.
Right,
So, yeah.
right. Yeah. So, okay. So then here's my question to you. So as somebody who is just snail slow, my skill is reading a book, digesting it, and having a long form one-on-one conversation with the author about it, right? That's
great.
That's what I do as a podcast host.
Yeah.
That is the opposite of fast twitch movement. That is like, it's deep study, deep reading, deep thinking, deep learning, long form conversation. The consequence of that is then people reach out to me and, it could be audience members, it could be sponsors. I mean, just in the process of running the infrastructure of the business that it takes to run this. People reach out to me and I'm terrible at responding.
Well, you haven't been terrible for me because I've been contacting with your team.
Yeah, exactly.
So once you know your lane, especially if you own a business, once you know your lane, you know who else to hire.
Right. So that's my question to you is in job interviews, as an employer, if I were looking for somebody who's fast, how do I assess? I mean, people are going to say in a job interview what they think the interviewer wants to hear.
Well, this could be a long podcast if you start talking about job interviews. One of the things I think people miss out on when they're running the interview is they think, I don't know how long you think of an interview, 45 minutes, 90 minutes, whatever the length of time is. Yeah. They think that's the interview. It's not. The interview is from the moment you start considering hiring me to the moment you make a decision about whether to hire me or not. Yeah. And all the days and hours in between there, that's the interview. Now, you may have a block of time set aside for a formal face-to-face conversation where that's part of the process. One way I encourage people who are looking at fast in particular, and I'm particularly drilled down on this one because it's one of my things, is if they're really, really, truly one of the fasts, it's so chronic they can't help it. So text them at 9:30 at night. Just see what happens on a Sunday. Just see what happens. Maybe they don't text you back. That's okay. I say this, and I wrote a column about this one time, and it went in some syndicated business journal that got over to Europe and I got like hate mail from people like, you can't make people work after hours, very rigid, union driven sort of thing. But if you're hiring somebody and you're okay with it, send them a text at a really oddball hour. And if they get back to you right away with 5 paragraphs, that also tells you something. Like you might not want all that intensity. But if they get back to you within 24 hours, that's a pretty good marker. People in general don't return calls. In inbound marketing, where people fill out a form, please, somebody will contact you, right? You fill out the form, and how quickly whoever receives the form responds determines how likely it is you're going to talk to the person. Massive studies have been done on this. And the question is, how much response time, how quick a response time matters when you get to fill out a form and somebody will get back to you. So if the form comes in and you get back to them within 60 seconds, you have a 98% chance or better of talking to that person. If you wait 20 minutes, it drops to 60%.
Wow.
If you wait 24 hours, it drops to 1%.
Wow.
The average response time of all the companies that were paying money for software for fill out a form, average response time was 73 hours.
Jeez. Wow.
So they just threw all that money away. So if somebody gets back to you quicker than 24 hours in a text that's not during that rather formal interview, that'll tell you if they're fast. You can do, if you need someone who's really agile, like if you're hiring a person to run marketing right now, marketing is changing every single day with Sora we were talking about before the interview, with AI everywhere. Well, you got to have somebody who's agile, right? That's one of the lanes. If you're interviewing and you want to know if the person you're interviewing is agile, change the interview location about 30 minutes before. Oh, I drove by that Starbucks. It is so crowded. Do you mind if we meet at the Pete's 4 blocks away? Maybe they get mad. Okay, fine. But don't be fooled into thinking the 45-minute formal interview is the interview time. That's all I'm saying. Use all the time from when you start considering hiring somebody to when you make your decision as chances to interview them. And once you know what you're looking for, fast, agile, whatever the thing is, you can do some non-interview interviewing to see how they behave. Because if they're wired that way, they won't be able to help it. They're just going to.
Right.
If I were looking for thorough, thoughtful, reflective, conversant, and I texted you and you got back to me in a minute or two, I'd have to sit and think about that. So I think you're right where you should be.
Exactly. We've talked about FAST as one of the 12 ways that people are wired. I'm just going to jump around based on the ones that I remember. There's another one, self-aware.
Yeah, we're all pretty bad at being self-aware. But there's some that develop it. You remember the first time you heard your voice recorded?
Yes. Yeah, I do.
It's awful, isn't it?
Yeah,
anybody listening get that? I mean, I remember hearing my voice recorded for the first time. I'm like, who is that?
Yeah.
I don't even like that voice. It's terrible. That is the human lack of self-awareness. It epitomized. In fact, we surveyed 250,000 people, force ranked these 12 things, right? Where do you think you're good or not? These 12 habits and 12 lanes. And, what are you best at and what are you worst at? Okay. So we surveyed 30,000 unicorns and then 250,000 people just at large. Okay. Unicorns, what are you best at? Well, 1 and 2 were different because there was no one answer that everybody said, I'm really good at that. There was one that they all said, I'm terrible at. Last place was self-awareness. Gosh, I've got to get better at that. And they're actually the ones that are better at it. The general survey to 250,000 people, we said in lots of different questions, each of the 12 habits, and we asked them to force rank whether they're 1 to 5. Not good at all, sort of not good, average, good, really good, right? Get to self-awareness. 250,000 people. 93% of them said they were very good at self-awareness, way above average. I don't have a math degree, but I'm pretty sure there's not a group on the planet where 93% are above average.
Right.
So, unless it's parents talking about their kids, all our kids are above average, right? But the normal people in the world, all of us think we're great at it, but when we hear our voice recorded, we go crazy. The people who are really good at it know they need to keep working on it. And the self-aware are these sort of reflective people. They're observers. They watch a lot of things. They're watching themselves and how they're probably, you have any friends that are really quiet, but when they say something?
Yeah, exactly. It's brilliant.
That's the self-aware. You don't want them in sales.
Right.
You don't want them doing your marketing. Well, maybe your marketing, if they're aware enough to feel pain points. Don Draper was probably a good marketer that lacked complete self-awareness, but there are some that observe. But the self-aware, to me, you find someone who's really self-aware, they'll tell you whether they belong in the job or not.
Right.
Because they already know, I'm good at this, I'm not good at this. In fact, once you know your lane, this is a little off topic, but it's pretty cool. It's like an icebreaker question people use in interviews, and it really paralyzes the person being interviewed. And it's the question, so tell me about yourself.
Right. Exactly. It's too broad.
Oh, well, I started walking at 11 months. So that was, do you
I ate my first solid food at 6 months.
Oh, right. Is that what we're after? Or, I think you're probably just trying to kill time to get us all talking. But what would happen if you're interviewing me for a job and it's for head of marketing and your company's growing really fast? And I say, well, Paula, let me tell you about myself. Here's what I'm learning about myself. It's a great way to start. Here's what I'm learning. Now everybody braces themselves for some story about therapy. No. Here's what I'm learning about myself. I took this thing called the DISC inventory. I'm a high I. I love to find and plan the next party. I'm a 7 on the Enneagram. I'm always on to the new project. That's who I am. I love doing things quickly. I love doing things where we don't know how to do them yet. I love doing things that require someone that wants to respond quickly. And that's what I'm learning about myself as a high I and an Enneagram 7. And that means if you want to hire me to be head of compliance, don't. You want a bookkeeper, please don't hire me. I could probably figure out how to do it, but that's not what I'm wired to do. What I'm wired to do is to go down this road of marketing with you maybe and figure out the new frontier that it is with AI, with outsourced things. It's a whole new ballgame. And if you look at my last 3 jobs, the reference letters I have are for projects I worked on where we didn't know what we were doing when we started. And we figured it out. So what I'm learning about myself is I love that kind of challenge. And I look at your company and I see the growth you've gone through. And I'm guessing you're jumping out of planes, building parachutes on the way down. And for this particular role, you need someone that is actually looking forward to that, not paralyzed by it. And I think I can be that person. So here's what I'm learning about myself. I think I'm wired in a way that might work with this job. It's a pretty cool answer.
Right.
It also prevents the interviewer from then going to the worst interview question on the planet, and that is, tell me about your weaknesses. Well, I never ask for a raise. I don't use my PTO. How do you answer that? Well, I already did. Don't ask me to do repetitive tasks over and over with thoroughness. That is not who I am. But put me in a job like marketing right now, 100%. And when you learn that about yourself, you will interview so well, you won't even have to think about whether you're getting the job.
Right. And I mean, when you're answering about how you're wired, it inherently answers the question, what are your weaknesses? I mean, I've literally just told you mine. Right.
And we didn't have to go through that nasty exercise because no one knows how to do good interviews.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's self-awareness. We talked Agile. Agile is also one of the 12 that you've uncovered. Tell me about that.
Particularly salient for where we're living right now.
Right.
I mean,
what does it mean to be agile?
Do you have a friend when you say, what's your favorite book you've ever read? And it said, I just finished it.
Yeah. And it's always the most recent book?
It's always the best book every time. They're learning new things, right? So the shadow side of agility is ADD, and shiny object syndrome. And I've got a kid with ADD. Please don't send me.
No, I have an ADHD diagnosis.
It's fine. But the value side is people who can multitask, people who love to try new things.
Yeah.
And we were doing a chief marketing search for a very large organization that is a nonprofit and communicates across probably 6 different generations. Okay. So the chief communications officer had to figure out how to carry the same message to the elderly couple who wanted printed materials delivered via U.S. mail. That's a thing. If you don't have mail, it is still a thing. And then they had to figure out how to carry that same message to TikTok. So this is omni-channel communications, right? And as we looked, we figured this is all changing so fast. I'm glad I didn't even learn Snapchat because apparently it's about to go away. Okay, but we need someone agile. So we started interviewing, and here's a perfect example of agility. And when you're interviewing, what's a new hobby? It doesn't have to be your favorite one, but what's a cool new thing you're doing right now? Yeah, agile people will have that. The lady that we interviewed for this chief communications role, one of the finalists, I said, what's something new you're doing? She said, I'm learning French. But she's in Southern California. I'm in South Texas. I'm like, listen, that's great. I took French, but you live in California, I live in Texas. If we're going to learn something other than English, I have a different suggestion for you,
Right, yeah.
It would be far more useful to learn Spanish, right?
Right.
And she said, yeah, but that's not the point. I said, well, okay, why are you learning French? She said, well, this was 2020. Okay. And she said, my daughter's a class of 2020. I thought, I've got one of those too. She said, yeah, this is college. Oh, mine's high school. She said, well, my college, graduate, I had promised I'd take her to Paris for a week. And now we can't go anywhere.
Right.
And I don't think we're going anywhere for a while. So I said, tell you what, let's play a game. who can become fluent in French before we go? If you can pass a fluency exam and I can pass one, we'll stay for 2 weeks.
Wow.
So they're learning French because of a thing they're doing together. It's bringing them together. It's not just wasted, shiny object. I've got to go do this kind of, pointless energy.
Right.
And shows an amazing agility. So I'm like, well, do you want to learn TikTok? Well, I'd love to learn TikTok. I know the US mail thing. Worked out great as a chief communications officer. But it was all based in agility because that particular sector is going through so much change right now so quickly. And people who are agile, a lot of people will say the future belongs to the fast. I think the future belongs to the agile as well. Because do you know what 5 years from now looks like?
I don't know what 5 months from now looks like.
That's even better said. I mean, It is just the rate of change is not going to slow down. And if you are in any kind of business that's going to be impacted by AI, which is all of them, but like it really impacted, I'd be looking for agile people over everything. We've never done it that way before. It's going to be the 7 last words of a lot of businesses. And it's not too late to start hiring agile people and adopting some change. But man, agility is going to be, I think, more sought after than anything in the next phase of the world that we're entering.
So there are going to be people listening to this who hear that and think, all right, then I would like to become a more agile person. But as we already established, some dogs are Pomeranians and some dogs are Great Danes. Some people are wired to be agile and some are not.
Some are not.
So if you are somebody who's listening to this podcast and you are not naturally wired to be agile, can you become more agile in a future that's going to demand it?
Or can you find a job that doesn't require as much agility? I'm the HR department for all my friends' kids too. We've got some dear friends who have a kid who's going to set the world on fire with some kind of research, and another one who just really is not interested in books as much. And they were so worried about it. And my wife actually gave me the advice: why don't you send him to pipe fitting school or electrician? And parents think how do you win a Nobel Prize in that? Like, it's not a real job. Parents think it has to be this magnanimous thing. But if you look at what jobs are really going to be around over the next, the trade skills are bulletproof for a long time. And if you're not agile and you're worried, well, maybe you learn to do a trade skill that you like doing. That's okay. But can you learn agility? Well, sure. And agility, even if it's how you're wired, the interesting thing about agility, unlike any of the other 12 lanes or habits, agility atrophies naturally.
Really?
Well, you ever try stretching?
Yep. Yeah.
Is it easier or harder than when you were 10 years old?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
I try and run. I was up here 2 weeks ago and ran the marathon.
Oh, the New York Marathon?
Yeah, we were raising money for cancer research.
Wow.
So, my daughter, my son, and my daughter's boyfriend ran with us, and which was good because they've been dating long enough, and we need to know if he's a finisher or a quitter, right? So he finished, so that's a good sign. But
nice.
But we're up here running, and so I'm a runner, and I have had to start stretching to keep from getting injured.
Right.
And I remember when our youngest was however old, 3.5 feet tall is,
Yeah.
She came in one day, I was trying to stretch. I was sweating more during the stretching than during the run because I'm just not a super flexible person. And she didn't say a word to me. She just looked at me and then she sat down on the floor, tied herself into a human knot like only a little kid can, looked up at me and smiled, untied herself, got up and left the room without saying a word. And it dawned on me, Paul, William, every day you're alive, you get less flexible. That's true of business teams too. It's true of podcast studios.
Right.
It's just natural. It's biologically what happens. The longer you're around, the more you get stiff, the less agile you are, the more you calcify. So even the agile, it's the one habit that you have to feed and work on every single day or it will go away. And I would say no matter how you're wired, everyone should be working on stretching in some way. And that might mean learn how to play a new instrument. It might be that simple.
Develop a new hobby.
Develop a new hobby. Take up a new sport. Play mahjong with your wife. Like learn how to do that. And learn something new. It will teach you that curiosity, the agility, the thing that keeps us from calcifying. but it takes daily work, even if you're good at it.
So another one of the 12 lanes, perfectionist or perfectionism. Now that seems to me like in some ways, a character deficiency.
You would think, right? You would think. Years ago, I was a pastor in a previous life, long time ago. That's why all these answers are so long-winded, sorry. But I was going out to eat with a guy in our church. I'd just gotten to the church, I don't know, in the first year or two I was there, so I was still meeting people. And he is a world-renowned neurosurgeon. Houston has a lot of medicine. And we're sitting at the table. I'll call him Paula just to protect identities, but we sat down at a really nice restaurant to have lunch, and he spent, and I watched my watch, he spent 3 full minutes, which is a long time. 3 minutes takes a while. 3 minutes arranging the silverware so it was lined up just.
Wow.
Right. So he finishes, and he looks up, and he's not dumb. He saw me watching him, and he said, "What?" And I said, "Paula, just, have you ever looked into, obsessive compulsive disorder?" And he looked at me and said, "William, you want your brain surgeon to be OCD." Oh, that's right.
Right.
I don't care if the guy that flies me back to Houston today is nice or not, but I want him to be detail oriented and be a pilot for United that, is super highly attentive. I don't know that I want to go out to eat with him, but get me home safe. So there are some jobs that require, whether you call it perfectionism, thoroughness, diligence. I mean, anytime we were running over those bridges during the marathon, I'm like, golly, this probably took a while to figure out how to build. And it probably took a perfectionist. I walked and ran across the Brooklyn Bridge this morning. 13 years it took to build that thing. That was a bunch of perfectionists. And thank goodness it was.
Right.
You can't raise a suspended bridge with a road without paying attention to detail.
Right. Right. Edith Roebling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So what types of jobs, other than neurosurgeon, are good fits for perfectionists?
Yeah, well, I think anything where it has to be right. Accountants, that's a great job. And I don't know what the AI forecast for accountants is, but I tell my accountant I have 2 rules in order. First rule, I don't look good in orange jumpsuits. So that's the first rule. Second rule is I don't want to pay any more tax than I legally have to. In that order, right?
Right.
She has to be right or I go to jail, right? So any job, if you think about it, is that something that has to be done exactly right? Well, then that's a perfectionist. I was a horrible house painter because I don't take the time to go over it carefully, right?
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. Any job that requires that level of getting the detail just right.
And so what should a perfectionist not do?
Yeah, art. Because you'll never be finished.
Right.
Things that don't get finished.
Fiction writing.
Consulting. I mean, you do all this work, tell a client, follow this, this, and this, and then they don't do any of it. That's what consulting is usually, right? So you'll get very frustrated if you spend all this time working up this perfect plan and people don't follow it.
Right.
Might be other little jobs, like jobs that you should not take if you're a perfectionist, probably a fitness trainer, because people who know how to stay in shape generally don't have to hire a fitness trainer.
Right.
So you get people that you're telling them what to do and they just don't do it. So any place that's going to frustrate you that things aren't perfect, speedy delivery, FedEx driver, that kind of thing. One of the ones you haven't mentioned, Paula, that's really interesting and we're seeing as a growing trend is we thought it'd just be one lane, and it is one lane, but it's called purpose-driven. So some people are wired to want to do work that they believe deeply matters. And we've seen in, millennials to some extent, Gen Zs. I read a study 2 weeks ago that said 76% of Gen Zs that were surveyed wouldn't even consider a job until they knew why the company existed. The Simon Sinek talk, Start With Why.
Start with why.
I think it might be one of the most popular TED Talks ever, right? And it's a thing right now. Well, I want to know the why. I want to know what's behind. Well, some people are actually driven by that. I have one life to live. I want to make it count. Or they've had something happen. You know, my wife has cancer, kidney cancer. And so that's what we were running for. We were raising money for that. And it wasn't about finishing a marathon. It was, we're running, you know, we were the A team. Adrian is her name. So yeah, my kids don't have any idea what the A team is, but old show. But that was more than just a race. It was going to be a marathon. And then we get this diagnosis. It's like, no. Now it's for, some people are wired that way, that if they don't know that their work is going to last beyond them, create a meaningful ripple, do some good in the world, you know, that they're not going to be happy. And I think most people who are accomplished have some form of North Star. It could be the sales guy who sees last year's October was this number, I'm going to beat it. And that's the North Star. It's a pretty low North Star, but you know, the higher the North Star, the better, the farther people actually go. But even evil people in the world had a North Star that they were following, a wrong one, but a North Star. And the people who are wired for that really need to consider careers that, I mean, it's pretty hard to figure out how working at Perrier is changing the world, right? You kind of dig a little bit.
No shade on Perrier.
No shade on Perrier.
Yeah.
I've supported them individually. I probably have kept their business alive. But, but it's pretty hard to get to what's the nobility behind that.
There's that famous quote. Was it Steve Jobs? It was somebody who was recruiting someone to come work for him. And he was recruiting a high-level executive at Pepsi.
Yes.
And he said, do you want to spend the rest of your life selling sugar water?
Yes.
You know, and that was his pitch.
And Gates had a similar one. I think he said, well, you can keep doing that or you can come change the world with us.
Yeah.
So he would be one that's driven by, I don't think Bill's driven by money. I think it was a change the world, you know, computer in every house, that whole dream. And if you're wired that way, it's a great time to go into business because AI is not going to replace nonprofits. And you can make a living running a nonprofit. You know, it sounds kind of contrary, but if you need meaningful work, or you go to work for Tom's Shoes, or for, you know, you name it.
Right, yeah.
You know, Chick-fil-A, something that falls in whatever you think you're calling for a higher purpose is. If you're wired that way, it's important to know because you will get very frustrated in a whole lot of jobs. Manufacturing, don't do it, you know, unless you're manufacturing something that, like Bibles or something that's going to make a lasting impact. So really interesting to see how that has become more of something that the majority of young workers are interested in. I don't know that they're all wired for it, but it's, I think, a pretty cool sign of what our future leaders look like.
And that actually opens up, you know, there are probably people who are listening to this who are thinking, well, I am very purpose-driven, but I'm also very agile. How many of these different lanes can a person fit into?
I would say 2 or 3. You can't say all of them. If you say all of them, you're probably just fast or agile, and you just like them all.
Yeah.
But there are 2 or 3. And the cool thing is when you start to overlay those things, run FEMA.
Right.
That's the ER vet. That's the, okay, you woke up and there was a flood or an earthquake or a hurricane or whatever. Somebody needs to get boots on the ground and solve this real fast. And you're doing it for a purpose. Well, that's a great job. Right.
I noticed that executive assistant was written under many of those.
Yes.
Many of those.
Yes. Yes. Of course, executive assistant, to be fair, completely depends on who you're assisting.
Right.
Your executive assistant probably needs a different skill set than mine.
Right.
You're probably easier to work for, too.
Well, I mean, but bosses can be hard in different ways. I think what I often have with my team, what I provide is a lack of structure.
Yes.
That some people thrive in that environment and other people chafe against that environment. You know, the lack of structure stresses them out. And especially in a very small business, the requirement to wear so many hats means necessarily that they don't have a highly specific job description that they hew closely to.
No, it's very specific. It's other duties as necessary.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And for some people, that's a blessing. And for others, it's a curse.
Total curse.
And I was thinking that when you were describing purpose-driven as well, you know, what a person values, person A versus person B might have 2 totally different values.
That's right.
And so persons A and B can both be purpose-driven, but they could actually be working in opposition to one another.
100%. 100%. And you just described Washington, D.C.
Right, right.
So good people on both sides, but they're both working for causes, but they're
Right.
not always seeing it the same way.
Right. But our society needs both, so long as we don't get too polarized or entrenched or tribal. I think the society needs both in order to determine where the boundaries of that Overton window exists.
You hit on a great thing. Size of the company also determines how much agility is needed. Just as I said, agility atrophies. Every day I'm alive, I get less flex. Every day a company's alive, especially if it's a growing company, it gets less flexible. And when in a young company with small head count, agility, everybody better be agile or you're not going to make it.
Right.
We've even found, I'm yet to be able to hire someone. Well, I have one, our COO, but I think that's the only time I've hired someone that's worked for a Fortune 500 that has worked out at our company. And I've always thought, well, they worked at that big company, it's great. Totally different atmosphere.
Right.
You know, and more agility required. There's a guy that works for Exxon in Texas. I don't know if they still have the job, but 20 years ago, all he did was change light bulbs in the office building. Like that's all he did.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one job.
Yeah. So you can say, well, I'm super agile and I'll be the agile guy at Exxon. Well, there's very little agility at Exxon. They have one guy to change the light bulbs. They have one guy to do it. So look at the size and age of the company when you're figuring out where to go.
We briefly had an employee whose entire career prior to coming to work for us, she had worked for her local government. And so it was a very rigid work environment.
Sure.
With a
Parks and Rec.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very specific job description, just a lot of guardrails, a lot of boundaries, a lot of red tape. And the shift from doing something like that to coming and working for a hyper small business, a team of 5.
Where you have a goal, just go get it done. You'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And we're like, all right, welcome. Figure it out. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So the podcast studio that we built, I told my son, go get on YouTube and figure out how to do it. Back in 2015 or 14, whenever we started. So,
right.
Yeah. One we haven't talked about is there's some people who are just naturally curious. And there are jobs where that's not a cool thing. You're not supposed to ask questions. You're just supposed to do the job. Right. But there are other jobs that if you are always saying, why is that? Yeah. Why do they make it this shape instead of that shape? I mean, is it better packaging? Does it sell better? If you're that kind of person, there are so many great jobs where people really need human discernment about how things go together. And the curious are the ones who can do that. They're the best management consultants. They're the ones who can spot a problem and figure out a pathway to solve the problem. And right now, while you can send out an email newsletter and an AI can generate the whole thing, or you don't, but like that is an option for people now, or you need a slide deck put together, AI can do that. The ability to say, how do all these dots actually connect and affect our business? We're not there yet, and if we do get there, then we're probably all out of a job. So, but until that day, people who are curious by nature are going to be highly valuable because they're always asking the why underneath the what. They're always trying to figure out, well, how does this work? How do we get better at that? The curious people have a bright, bright future in the workplace.
And so what types of jobs, if somebody's listening to this and they think, you know what, that's me, I'm inquisitive, I'm curious, I like to synthesize.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
If that resonates with someone who's listening, what are some types of ideal jobs for them?
Yeah, well, don't have to be a doctor, but that's the first thing that comes to mind. Tell me what's wrong. That's what the doctor does. It could be a physician's assistant. You know what kind of shortage we have in the nursing industry right now? And that's not going to change.
Particularly as the population ages.
Population ages but lives longer, so it's getting more health care.
Right.
And you're not going to talk to a robot.
Right, yeah.
So there will be changes in the nursing industry. But if you're curious and you're wondering why can't they sleep at night? Well, maybe they need to, maybe a healthcare job, maybe a researcher, right? Maybe you could do deep level research, like an analyst for a consulting firm. But the curious have a high value, especially if they're curious about things they've never been curious about before. Like, I've never seen that. That's exciting. If you're wired like that, you have a very bright future in the job market.
What should the curious not do?
they should not go to a job where they can't ask questions. We don't ask questions here. We just do this. Manufacturing.
You do what you're told.
Do what you're told and don't ask any questions. And a lot of companies just have that vibe. Well, it's working, so don't ask any questions. 3M up in Minneapolis used to have a mandate. They invented they had more patents, probably more patents than anybody. They had a rule for a while that if you were in management or above, 15% of your day was set aside to figure out things you hadn't thought of.
Oh.
15% of the workday. I mean, that's a lot.
That's like, well, in an 8-hour day, 1 hour is what, 12.5%.
That's right.
So that would be a little over an hour a day.
I want you to just sit and think about things you hadn't thought about yet and come up with new stuff. Like find somewhere like that to work.
We've talked about a number of attributes so far: agility, curiosity, being purpose-driven. Do these change over time?
That's such a good question. I think agility, we've mentioned, actually atrophies. It will go away if you don't tend to it. I don't know that the others do. I'm not as fast as I used to be. I have to be a little more discerning about getting back to people quickly because I can't get back to everybody within a minute. I used to say, we'll always get back to you within a minute. And my team just hated it when I was on a podcast like this because they would get flooded with calls from people saying, just wanted to see if you get back to me in a minute. So I think as your life changes, you have to steward your wiring differently. But I don't know that they fundamentally change. I don't know that you will have a clear vision of what that lifelong lane for you is until your frontal cortex is developed. And for females who have it together more than men, I think you're done at 24 with your frontal cortex, so it's at least a year. So if you're 20, 21, 22, I don't know yet. That's fine. That's fine. Your first job is not your last job. Ask any successful person what their first job was. I bet it's not at the company they're at right now. So it's okay, as long as you're treating your employers well, to kind of test the waters for a while. But once you get to 25, I think your natural preferences are going to fall in one of these 12 lanes. How you use it will change over time. And the one that will go away is agility. But I think kind of we are who we are. I mean, you're either Pomeranian or you're not.
So we've been talking about how these various traits reflect the type of work that you do.
Yes.
But the other thing that strikes me is, in addition to the type of work that you do, there's also more broadly company culture.
100%.
And you mentioned company size, and that plays a role in it. But outside of size itself, there's also simply company culture.
100%.
How can a person assess that as they're trying to figure out what's going to be a good fit for them?
Well, first of all, hopefully they have it spelled out and it's real. So in 2018, we kept winning all these Best Places to Work awards. It was getting kind of stupid. We won Best Office Dog.
Best Office Dog?
It got out of hand.
That's amazing.
He was an amazing dog, but Moses is one of a kind.
What kind of a dog?
Standard poodle.
Ah.
When we got married, Adrian said, I'm allergic to large dogs, or I'm allergic to dogs that shed. And I said, well, I'm allergic to small dogs. So we ended up with a large standard poodle. Yeah. But when we won all these awards, we ended up getting asked over and over, write a book about your culture. I'm like, I'm not going to write a book about that. So we studied 150 different companies that were winning the similar awards. And we said, what do they have in common? And this is how, I don't write books, I do research projects, and then they turn into a book. And it turned into a book called Culture Wins. And when we were writing it, we were studying places that do culture well. They do the hard work of figuring it out. And you'll see their cultural values everywhere. You'll see ours plastered on the wall when you walk in. And the biggest one of the 9, we did it as a word cloud of our 9 values, is ridiculous responsiveness. So you would probably not like working.
I would be terrible at that.
But it's been great for us because we now can interview and say, we know we're crazy.
Yeah.
Here are 9 markers of how we behave, because workplace culture, if your vision is what you're trying to get done, workplace culture is, how does this team behave as we're getting that done? Like, what are the family rules? That's what I see culture as.
Yeah.
And if culture's strong, you'll pick up on it. And, you would run away from our company and, sorry, but we're crazy.
Right.
We get back to people right away.
So then what I'm hearing is it's the responsibility of the company to really clearly convey.
It's the responsibility of the company to clearly convey. So we studied places that were not winning the award that had their cultural values. We found one big elevator lobby, a company in Houston, and the 4 walls of the elevator lobby to go up to the office building had the 4 values written on it: integrity, trust, I think reliability. I forget what. Well, that was the elevator lobby for a company called Enron, which was massive fraud.
Yeah.
It's like you can write it on the board all day, but it's who you are when you are working there. You can ask AI though. I mean, I wouldn't try. I would verify what it finds for you, but you can ask AI about the churn rate of a company. How much turnover do they have? How does that stack up against the industry? What do Glassdoor reviews say about working there? And you'll start to hear, and I mean, people who take time to fill out reviews are usually very positive or very negative.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's either your mother or your mother-in-law that's writing the. So you can use the internet to find out as much as you can as a future employee about the company culture. I wouldn't necessarily trust what's written on the wall. But when you talk to people and you say, well, how do you, when you interview with them, you can say, well, I've studied and I see your 4 values are this. How does that play out here? Or is it just words on a piece of paper or what? And people will tell you, and if it's good, they will immediately start telling stories. And if it's a small company like yours, structureless structure is one of our values. If you can articulate how you behave, you will naturally attract people who behave the same way.
Right. How does remote work play a role in all of this? Both of the stories that you told involve physically coming into a space and seeing something written on the wall, ridiculous responsiveness written on the wall. What happens for a remote team when there are no physical walls?
Yeah, very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. I'm an old curmudgeon. And I think that being able to Zoom with somebody's great, but there's a reason we're sitting in the same room together today.
Yeah.
There's something different when humans interact with humans. And I know there'll be hybrid work will continue. There's some work that needs to be remote, but I think people coming back into the office is going to be more and more of a thing. I'm seeing it with the Gen Zs that are my kids. They're like, had a daughter who worked up here 2 summers for a company, and they wanted her to come back after graduation and work, and she didn't want a job that was remote. She wanted to be in an office. It's harder to do culture when it's remote. It's harder to be a part of things when it's remote. I FaceTime with our kids who don't live in Houston every night, but it's way better to see them face to face. So I'm not very bullish on that. Sorry.
For the people who are listening who are entrepreneurs or who are managers who are hiring, how do you balance the desire to capture nationwide talent, to expand that search pool to talent nationwide, particularly if you're looking for that unicorn, you're looking for somebody who's excellent at a very, very niche skill.
Yes.
You want to expand that talent search nationwide rather than curtail it to just your locality.
Yes.
But you also would prefer an in-person team. How do you balance those two?
It's a tension to manage for sure. It's a tension to manage. And there's some jobs that are just so skill specific that you have to throw other considerations out the window. I mean, I think as an employer, if you're looking to hire people, your first job is to know your company, know what works and what doesn't. If you are, use your company, I don't know the first thing about it. So let's say it's 20 people.
We're 5 people.
Okay, you're 5 people.
5 people.
Where are you guys located?
We're fully remote.
Okay, well then it shouldn't be a problem at all. But if you had 5 people who are coming in here every day, and there's this one person, I don't know what they are. They're like a back-end coder for the one thing you need in your company, and you're willing to take someone from Alaska. Well, these 5 people that are coming in every day are going to be like, well,
why are we coming in? Yeah.
Right. I mean, so it's the employer's job to know what works at our company and what doesn't, and what above everything else matters. And if it's talent and skill and we don't care where you live, that's great. But stated up front, where I see managers get in trouble is when they see talent and then break all the rules they use to hire the people that they have to go get the talent. And it can be advisable in rare circumstances, but usually it costs the team more than you gain.
So inconsistency is where people get into trouble.
I think that's right. Authenticity. The authentic manager knows what's going to be good for the team. When you hire a person, you change the chemistry of the team.
Right.
Every time. That's why people are afraid of it. It's why I have a job as an exec search guy. It's really disruptive. So I think managers who do the best job of hiring are the ones who really know who their company is and how much change they can tolerate. Mm-hmm. And then they hire thinking of the whole team and not just getting the rock star that's out there.
Authenticity is also one of the lanes. So if you are not authentic.
Yes. If you're at all a chameleon.
Yeah, exactly. If you are at all a chameleon. Which isn't
necessarily a bad thing. A lot of really great salespeople can become whatever they need to walk into whatever room they're walking into to make a human connection and sell a good.
Right.
So it's not a bad thing. I think the people who really value authenticity and they're people of principle. They're people who won't do. I don't do that. You know, that wouldn't be who my true self is. There is a very specific place in the world for jobs that need that kind of authenticity. Law enforcement comes to mind. Like, be the good cop, right? Mm-hmm. Authenticity matters there. Authenticity matters in religious leadership, whether it's a synagogue or a temple or a mosque or a church, what have you. People need to know that the person they're looking at actually is who they say they are when they're off the stage and up close and personal. And if you're not that kind of person, there's a place for you. You should probably find another word than authentic, because it makes it sound like you're a bad person if you're not authentic.
If you're inauthentic,
yeah. But if you can change skins quickly, which is not
adaptable. I mean,
how in the politicians, I do not know. I've traveled this country so much since I started this work 17 years ago. I don't know how you win the presidency. You know, when I go to Eastern Washington and it's different than Western Washington, which is different than Ohio, which is different than some other swing state, you know, you have to be able to adapt to the crowd to get the thing done. And that, I guess we need a different word than authenticity, but if you have to behave according to who you are, there's a place for you too. It's one of the 12 lanes, and there's lots of good jobs that are listed in there that you can find. So.
Right. It sounds as though there's almost a certain degree of rigidity that's incumbent with authenticity.
I think that's right. I think that's exactly right. And
you know, whereas the opposite would have flexibility.
I think that's probably a fair statement. And usually, you know, in healthy marriages, there's usually one of each of those kind of people, you know, law and order and a little bit looser in the saddle. As
we close out, I want to take this back to there are many people who are listening to this who are in their 40s or 50s.
Yes.
And they're thinking, I'm not in the right career.
Yes.
I'm not in the right job. I don't love what I do. And at this phase in my life, I could retrain, but that would be just a huge pain in the butt to go back to school at the age of 49 or, 52. And to be in school for another X number of years, right? So I could retrain, or I could try to retire early. But even if I did, I'd be 55 and I'd still have all of this energy and life and vigor, and I want to make a contribution to the world, and I don't exactly know what that would look like.
Yes.
And that's the position that they're in. And what words of wisdom would you have for...
Well, it's right where I'm living.
Yeah.
And I don't think many people would do very well just retiring. Mm-hmm. Like, even if you retire, I would bet if you worked hard enough to be able to retire at 55, you're not good at sitting still.
Yeah.
Unless you invented something, right? So even if you retire and go volunteer, you don't need to be volunteering at a volunteer job that is misery. You need to know how you're wired so you can volunteer in a place that's like, I know how to do this. I can do this. Of all the things that this cancer journey we're on, I know how to raise money. I can't solve cancer, but I can go raise money. And that's a volunteer thing, and it's how I'm wired. I enjoy doing it. I'm good at it. And that makes it fulfilling. So even if you're going to retire at 55, you're probably going to have to find something to volunteer. Better to know how you're wired. So you're volunteering in a lane that would match how you're wired. Because when you're in your lane, you'll go farther and faster at your job or your volunteer work or however you're filling your day.
But what if working how you're wired requires retraining? What do you do then?
I don't think it does. I don't think it does. I think the future of human work is humans talking to other humans about human issues. So if you discover your wiring is, I should go learn how to be a coder. Now I have to go sit. Don't do that because coding's over. That's going to be automated. Most of the technical jobs, aside from masonry, pipe fitting, electrician that we talked about before, the labor intensive trade skills, those you do need to go learn. But learning how to be a volunteer coordinator, learning how to be, a good COO can run anything. They don't have, my wife's the best COO on the planet. She's managed to get 7 kids and me, functioning as adults and running the place. She could run any company in the world. So I don't know that the training of a skill-specific thing is necessary. If you're looking at changing your career completely and you've got some financial security, I think you will find a job that fits your wiring that focuses on human-to-human skills. And who knows? It might not be a job in 5 years. So,
all right. Well, thank you for spending this time with us. Where can people find you if they'd like to learn more?
Yeah, unfortunately, our company is named after me, and the only reason is back when SEO was a thing. Vanderbloemen, you can misspell into Google about 100 different ways, and you'll find our site.
And you'll find the site.
Yeah. And if you're running a team on our site, it's not just executive search. There's probably 6,000 free resources for leaders on how to build and run and keep their team. So you just type Vanderbloemen however you want. Same with the book. Just go to Amazon and try spelling Vanderbloemen. All the things will come up.
That is actually nice to know that people don't have to spell it correctly.
Yeah,
just type any interpretation of Vanderbloemen.
Yeah, Vanderpump was a TV thing for a while.
Right. Vanderpump Rules.
Yeah, you might get Vanderbilt, but you get past those two, it's pretty much going to drive to us.
Excellent. Well, thank you.
Thank you.